Rod Phillips made his first appearance today as Ontario's long-term care minister just in the last hour, and he promised to address what he called years of neglect brought to light during the COVID-19 pandemic. He also apologized.
Successive governments, including this one, failed residents, they failed families, and they failed our staff. And on behalf of both past governments and the current government, I apologize for that. I think that's a necessary step so that we can take the action we need to do now to move forward.
CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick joins us now live in Toronto, who was watching along. And as we talk about that apology, I'm reminded of that haunting number of deaths in the province of Ontario, 3,782 seniors who died in long-term care. The backdrop to this apology, Megan.
Yeah, and he was saying that anyone who read the Long-Term Care Commission report would come to the conclusion that that apology was necessary. The Long-Term Care Commission was struck in the wake of that first wave of the pandemic sweeping through long-term care homes in the spring, Jennifer. And this is quite a significant moment for Phillips, new in the role, to offer this apology. His predecessor, Dr. Mary Lee Fullerton, would often blame previous governments and saying that her government inherited a broken system. She wouldn't often, if ever, take direct responsibility for decisions made by the Ford government during the pandemic. And Rod Phillips clearly did that today, saying that previous governments and his government failed residents and their families and staff. And so he also was acknowledging that he thinks this apology is necessary in order to move forward and to implement some of those recommendations that were in the Long-Term Care Commission report. He noted that horrible death toll that you just mentioned, Jennifer, 3,782 resident deaths so far, hopefully no more, but also 13 staff members lost their lives to COVID during the pandemic as well. And Rod Phillips saying that that's not acceptable and that that's not something that his government or previous governments should be proud of. And so in terms of looking forward and moving on, he did significantly also say there's going to be new legislation coming this fall, a new Long-Term Care Act coming to Ontario. And he said it would include making it very clear to home operators what their obligations are and what the consequences are for not meeting those obligations.
Megan, he also talked about easing restrictions in long-term care homes, something that many advocates for family with loved ones in long-term care homes have been wondering and saying is overdue, and that is the ability to visit in greater numbers. What have we heard about that today?
Yeah, they've slowly been easing restrictions at long-term care homes in terms of visitor rules and so on. And now another round of restrictions due to be eased starting on July 7th, the minister said. So on that day, they will lift the limit on the number of essential caregivers that are allowed inside the homes. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's only 2 right now, designated caregivers. For outdoor visits, families will be allowed to have friends and family, up to 10 people outdoors to visit a resident. Indoors, they'll be allowed to have 2 essential caregivers and 2 other visitors at a time. And then personal care services will be allowed to resume within the homes as well. Rod Phillips saying as time goes on, they'll further ease restrictions when safe, including more restrictions when the province enters step 3 of its reopening plan.
Megan, thank you for this. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick in Toronto.